You wake up every day believing you're trying your best. You tell yourself you'll do better with money, you'll be more disciplined, you'll finally take control. And for a moment, it feels real. But then something happens. Not something big, not something dramatic, just something small. Maybe it's a bad week at work. Maybe it's just a Tuesday. Either way, your hand is already reaching. You get tired, you feel stressed, you want relief, and without thinking, you fall back into the same behavior, spending, delaying, resetting, again and again and again. At some point, you start to wonder, why does this keep happening to me? But here's the truth most people never realize. This isn't happening to you, it's happening through you. You're not just living your life, you're running a pattern. And that pattern isn't costing you just money, it's costing you time, it's costing you identity, it's costing you the version of yourself you keep promising is coming.
Let's slow this down and actually look at what's happening. Because the problem isn't obvious. That's exactly why it's dangerous. You earn money, maybe not a lot, maybe just enough to feel like progress is possible. And in that moment, you feel something rare, control. You tell yourself, this time will be different. This time, I'll be smarter. This time, I won't let it disappear. And you mean it. That's the part nobody talks about. You always mean it. But meaning something and changing something are not the same thing. Because a few days pass and your environment starts pulling on you. Not loudly, quietly. A notification here, an ad there, a conversation that triggers something old, a moment of stress you didn't plan for. And slowly, without announcing itself, your focus shifts. You justify one small purchase. You delay one important decision. You tell yourself it doesn't matter. And those small decisions stack, quietly, invisibly, until one day you check your account and you're back where you started. Not because you're irresponsible, not because you don't care, but because you followed the script you've always followed. And nobody ever showed you the script. Most people think their problem is money. It's not. Your problem is behavior. More specifically, unconscious behavior. Here's what that means. Every financial decision you make is connected to an emotional state. You don't just spend money, you respond with money. Think about the last time you made a purchase you regretted. What were you feeling right before it? Stressed? Bored? Lonely? Overwhelmed? The purchase wasn't really about the thing you bought. It was about the feeling you were trying to create, or the feeling you were trying to escape. When you feel stressed, you spend to feel relief. When you feel bored, you scroll and buy to feel stimulated. When you feel low, you reward yourself to feel worthy. When you feel out of control, you spend to feel powerful, even for just a moment. And the more you repeat this, the more your brain learns it. It builds a connection so deep, it stops requiring a conscious decision. Spending equals relief. Avoidance equals comfort. Delay equals safety. And once that connection is wired, you're no longer deciding, you're reacting. The choice was made before you even reached for your phone. This is where most people completely lose the plot without realizing it. Dopamine. You've heard the word, but here's what most explanations get wrong. Dopamine isn't just about pleasure, it's about anticipation. Your brain releases dopamine not when you get the reward, but when it expects the reward is coming. That's why scrolling feels good even before you find anything interesting. That's why adding things to your cart feels satisfying even before you buy. That's why checking your phone feels compelling even when there's nothing there. The anticipation itself is the reward, and your brain is running this loop constantly. Now apply that to money. When you spend impulsively, your brain doesn't just feel good, it records the moment. It says, "That worked. Remember this. Do it again." And when you try to save, when you try to delay gratification, your brain experiences that as loss, not neutral. Loss, restriction, discomfort, a threat to your current state. So it resists, loudly. And that resistance feels so convincing, so biological, that you mistake it for logic. You tell yourself you have reasons. You tell yourself next month will be different. But it's not logic. It's your nervous system protecting a pattern it was never asked to question.
So what actually changes things? Not motivation. Motivation is a feeling. Feelings are temporary. The loop outlasts every feeling you've ever had. Not information either. You already know spending impulsively is bad for you. Knowing hasn't stopped it. What changes things is interruption, a gap between the trigger and the behavior. Just a pause, not perfection, not a complete transformation, just a moment of observation before the automatic response fires. Because here's what that pause does. It moves you from reacting to responding. Reacting is the loop running you. Responding is you running the loop. That 1 second of awareness, catching yourself before you click, before you delay, before you escape, that second is where your financial life actually changes. Not in the big dramatic decisions, in the small invisible ones you've been making automatically for years.
Most people will watch this video, and tomorrow they'll be in this same loop, not because they don't want to change, but because awareness without action is just more information, and you already have enough information. What you need is a different relationship with the moment before the decision. The loop doesn't break in a workshop. It doesn't break in a resolution. It breaks in a Tuesday afternoon when you're tired and stressed and you catch yourself just for a second and you choose differently. Not perfectly, just differently. That's the moment. That's always been the moment. The question was never whether the loop exists. You can see it now. The only question left is, will you keep running it, or will you become someone who finally decides to stop?